I was going to ask your opinion on maybe you've talked about this. I'm not sure. Like the subculture of James Dean in the 50s, kind of greaser, but I guess James Dean wasn't really a greaser, but kind of the teenage subculture that I guess was promoted and kind of blossomed in the 50s. And can you just give your opinions on that and just that whole world?
Well, let me say, first of all, the first time I ever went to Los Angeles, I went to Griffith Observatory. And me and a friend who hosted me out there, we went to Griffith Observatory. Have you seen Rebel Without a Cause?
Yes, yes.
That is a very good movie. It's a great movie. I first saw it when I was a teenager. I'm like, this is a very, very cool film. It's poetic on a number of levels. What I think is interesting about that film is that it was specifically highlighting that in very wealthy areas of Southern California at that time, there was a lot of new wealth, but there was also a rise in juvenile crime. And it's like, why is this happening? Juvenile crime was associated with poverty historically, right? Kids that don't have a job, or they're from a poor family, they go out and steal things, or they're in a gang or something. But why are these kids? And you watch the movie, right? His parents are like, "We bought you a car."
Right.
It's like he's living in this like 1950s luxury life, but yet he's getting into knife fights and stealing cars and what's going on there. But I would argue that was really, it was an expression of alienation. And it was kind of Cold War America, right? You have the parents coming out of the Great Depression, and it's that whole thing of like the parents lived during the Great Depression, and then they lived through World War II, right? And so the parents have gone through World War II, which was a horrendous event where lots of people died. They've been through the Great Depression and struggling to eat and struggling to pay their bills, and people dying of malnutrition and the political turmoil of the Roosevelt years and all of that. And then all of a sudden, you have the highest living standard in the world and everything's happy. And it's like, so now just be safe and comfortable. It's like, no, no. You look at so much 1950s culture, it's like, this can't be real, right? It's, a traumatized person, who suddenly is in a safe environment, looking over their shoulder, going, that's a whole lot of 1950s culture. 1947, you have the UFO scare, right? Where people all over the country are hallucinating and seeing UFOs. And then movie after movie, that's the 1950s, you get the cliche of like the giant monster attacking the city. You know what I'm saying? Or the alien invasion and all of that. And that the American subconscious was very, very horrified. And that was a big part of, when they talk about the labor aristocracy and that white middle class, the white picket fence, the kind of held U.S. Cold War America together. Underlying that was an extreme amount of fear and terror. They were not well, right? And then, the right historically kind of knew how to, utilize the fears that those folks had. I'll just use an example. Certain members of my family were living in the suburbs in the South during the 60s. And they told me they literally believed that "We Shall Overcome," the song of the civil rights movement, meant kill all white people. And this was, everyone knew that. That was just a fact, right? And obviously that's not what Dr. Martin Luther King was saying. But, everybody knew that. That was a fact. Dr. Martin Luther King says "We shall overcome," and that means kill all the white people. And that there was like this, like, everyone's coming to get us. We're under attack. We may be comfortable. We may have a house. We may have a car, but we're not really safe. And that's what I view. That's the context of the James Dean thing. The other thing that's weird is that psychoanalysis, Freudianism, which I'm fascinated by, was huge in Hollywood in those years. And that movie in particular has a number of like weird Freudian tropes that wouldn't fly in Hollywood.
There's like a gay character in it, right? Pluto. What was his name? I think it's Pluto. And
Plato.
he's kind of like Plato. Yeah, he's kind of having like a gay crush on James Dean.
Well, it's even weirder. So Sal Mineo was the actor. Sal Mineo was gay, and they didn't write the script for Sal Mineo's character to be gay, but Sal Mineo himself was gay, and James Dean was bisexual, and they were having an affair, and so it showed up in the movie. And that's one of the like weirdest stories in Hollywood, is that everyone saw it and they're like, "Oh, this is about homosexuality," and it's like, everyone's like, it is, but it kind of is if you look at the way he looks at James Dean throughout the movie and all of that. Sal Mineo is the very famous actor. He was the Plato kid who's like the juvenile delinquent who ends up, becoming like, having the gun and all of that, right? He's the kid who's a little bit younger. But then like the Natalie Wood character, right? She's got sexual feelings for her father that comes across in the film, right? And then like James Dean hates his father because his mother is always like bossing the father around,
Yeah,
and so
his father's weak. He perceives him as weak. Yeah.
right. It's all a very like super Freudian film, and there's a movie from from World War II called Curse of the Cat The Cat People. Have you ever heard of this movie?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it came out during World War II, and it's about a woman who every time she gets sexually turned on, she turns into a cat. And it's not clear if you watch the movie if she actually turns into a cat or if she's just mentally ill, right? And it's totally like a Freudian thing. And it's like the psychoanalysis stuff was so big in Hollywood during these years that they were like, these tropes were showing up in movies in kind of weird ways. They were all kind of on the psychoanalytic couch, and we know that was, the American deep state was obsessed with that.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that's how like acid was introduced to America. It was through these like fucked up 50s stars who like the American government and I guess institutions that were affiliated with the government were giving out acid trials to like these like kind of standard movie stars, and they were having like these weird acid therapy sessions throughout the 50s, and it's just such a weird. I guess that kind of shines through with what you were saying, where it's like it's all intertwined in this kind of Freudian kind of point of view.
Right. There was a movie that came out a couple years ago that was about the making of the movie Psycho. It was a movie about Alfred Hitchcock making the movie Psycho, and I thought that was fascinating because it showed like what was the source of all of that, and and like what was the reaction to it. And then I had not seen the movie Psycho before. Have you seen Psycho?
Yes.
Yeah. And I watched Psycho and I'm like, this is interesting. It's like halfway between a 1950s detective movie and a modern slasher film. You know what I'm saying? It's like halfway through. And then the whole plot of the film, I mean, it's the thing is the guy's transgender, right? Like he thinks he's his mother or something. Like his mother takes over, and so he puts on her dress and kills people or something. And the whole thing is like, but like apparently Alfred Hitchcock, a lot of the stars he worked with would go see like weird Freudian shrinks who would like have them act out weird fantasies and shit like that. And that,
oh shit, that made me think of something. You ever hear about? I think I was trying to get you talking about this the other day or a few months ago. It was what is that thing? Like scream therapy, primal therapy. You ever hear primal therapy? That is weird shit. You would love reading about that. Read about primal therapy. It was like this thing in the 60s and the 70s. The reason it's well known today is because John Lennon of the Beatles was really into it. And it's like where you just like go like as a baby, you like cradle the ground and you scream, mama, like just scream, like you scream for your parents. You like try to go back to your primal self. And it's very, very, very weird. But it was like huge in like the milieu of this late 60s new left. And there was like a very popular book about it in like 68. And everybody was reading it. And Lennon kind of got trapped inside of that whole movement. But it's very similar to what you were saying. Well, I would research it.
These kind of things are like an obsession of the liberal CIA. And I noticed like right after Trump left office, all of a sudden there were all these TV programs about how if you take acid, that will like help you get over all your trauma and stuff. And if you look at it, like, I mean, it's like, yeah, there are some people that they're able to take hallucinogens and have therapy and hallucinogens that helps them see things from a different angle or something, but it's very vague. It's not like, but the way they were pushing it with the advertisements and all, it's like, take this drug and this will cure you of everything. And the other thing is EDMR, which is a popular therapy practice. I don't really know what it's like. They flash lights in your face and all of that. That suddenly was being pushed like crazy. Like I saw ads in the New York subways. I mean, there were all these articles in like mainstream magazines. EDMR is amazing. And if you look at the history of EDMR, there's a lot of people that are like, this wasn't so good. And, and it was very, very weird. That stuff, and you have to ask questions. What you're describing with this primal scream or whatever, that they tell them, but that's catharsis, right? And and catharsis can be the basis of an addiction, right? It becomes addictive. You just have to let your feelings out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the person gets kind of an endorphin rush from the catharsis. So, You know, I mean, that's very interesting. I think we should be, I mean, to some degree or other, some of this is just, you know, mental health, like anything else, like food health, like anything else, things go out of style. But then there's part of me that's always wondering, like, how much mind control and manipulation is going on, because the woke culture is all about trauma. It's all about making people kind of relive their victimization over and over in their mind so they can't hear the world around them.